Good to see you.
Listen, I want to get one thing cleared up right away.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, I may be in trouble with my daughter. When I left to come over here, I was going to play tennis first, actually.
Right.
And I was in tennis clothes, and I was kind of rushed, and it's raining, and all that. And I grabbed up the clothes I was going to wear. I changed in the dressing room. And my daughter saw me going out the door, and she said, Dad, you're not going to wear that shirt on the Johnny Carson show, are you? And I said, yeah, baby, yeah, I'm late. I'm going to be... She said, you can't wear that shirt. I said, honey, I'd change it if you... There's no time. But if it's no good with you or with you or you, it's not her fault. It's my fault.
She tried.
Yeah, she tried.
Isn't that funny? They get conscious of,
Oh, yeah.
wants you to be sharp. Well, first of all, I saw the Los Angeles magazine today. Did you see the latest issue of that?
No.
Well, they were rating the celebrity tennis players.
Oh, boy.
Those of us in the business.
Oh, boy.
Well, I want to know, I'm hacked. I'm pretty hacked. I tried to call Freddie to Cordova and see if we could cancel you. You were rated in
Freddie wouldn't do that.
Yeah, you were rated in the superstars of the celebrity players. I was in the next category.
Sorry about that, John.
I know, that's the way it is, but I'm gunning for you.
Yeah.
I'm gunning for you. You've been playing, though. You're a real nut on the game, aren't you?
Well, the thing about tennis is it's an obsession or it's nothing.
I think you're right.
And it's I think...
You attack it.
It's an obsession.
Yeah. You know, when I introduced you tonight, I said Charlton Heston, but I call you Chuck. And I know most of you people who know you call you Chuck. I would guess there are only a couple of people that call me John anymore. One is my mother. I can always tell
my
it's
mother.
My mother
Calls me Charlton.
And you can tell it. If my mother was on long distance, halfway around the world, and there was a bad connection, I'd hear this, John. I know that's my mom. Yeah. Does she call it Charlton?
Yeah, that's right. Anybody else call you John?
No, I think mainly it's John.
C.B. DeMille used to call me Charlton, but...
Cecil B. DeMille? What was he like to work with? There's so many myths and stories about him. There have been books written about him.
He was marvelous to actors. He could be tough on crew people sometimes, but to actors and extras, the people in his companies...
Is this a story? Now, this has been quoted, attributed to when he was making the picture...
Ten Commandments.
Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
That when he had all the extras assembled... Now, I've heard this quoted, and somebody said something. He had this vast mob scene. I'm going to tell the story because it's a classic if it's true. If it's not, it's still funny. And he had these thousands of people talking, and I understood when DeMille talked, it was like
That's
God.
because he had a mic.
God was talking, and he was instructing all of these people. And he noticed one of the little girls dressed as a slave girl, mumbling to another little girl down there while he was talking. And he says, stop. Quiet, please. My young lady pointed out this poor little girl who had been talking. He says, obviously you have something to say that might interest the rest of the people here. Would you tell us all what's so important? And the little girls reputedly have said, well, I was just saying to my friend, I wondered when the old bald-headed SOB is going to call lunch. And there was this absolute stunned silence, and DeMille says, lunch? And that was it. Now, if it's not true, it's a great story.
That's true. That was
So it
on
shows
10
the man who's had a great sense of humor somewhere along the line.
Yeah, that was the same set and the same sequence, the worship of the golden calf sequence, where they had these people rolling around in bunches of grapes and lion skins for about a week and a half, worshiping the golden calf, waiting for me to come down from the mountain with the tablets. And I finally came down just before they called lunch, another day, but the same set. And I said, who is on the Lord's side, let him come to me. And so everybody cowered back, you know, and just then they broke for lunch, so I'm walking along, trailing clouds of glory behind me to lunch. And I walked by this little slave girl, and she says, party pooper.
Those are great stories. Well, I'm glad to hear that story actually happened, because it's a classic of all times that he cut lunch. I don't know if we ever talked about this. You grew up in a very small town, didn't you?
Smaller than anybody. Small town.
I grew in small towns, but I'm talking about...
My small town was smaller than your small town.
Yeah, somebody told me about 100 people?
Yeah, had a one-room school with 13 pupils in 8 grades, 3 of whom were my cousins.
And you go through...
I was valedictorian of my class.
The teacher came in second,
huh?
That's what was the town in Michigan?
St. Helena.
Is it still small?
It's not that small, but it's small.
Yeah. And then somebody said you had a hideaway or something in close to your home there?
Well, the first money I made in films I spent to buy 1,400 acres of timber and has a little lodge kind of place on it and a lake with last time I was up there, a pair of golden eagles living in a tree.
That's fascinating.
That's
get
great
away
country.
from this madness out here at times, isn't it? Yeah. Get back home and get the roots in.
You bet.
When you see some of your pictures on television, and there's not an actor alive, I remember when they played The Silver Chalice once, Paul Newman took out an ad in the trade paper Variety and simply said, sorry. They were showing it on television, and it was one of the early pictures he made, and not a biggie.
Paul doesn't like to do those parts where he doesn't get to wear pants.
Yeah, he said
I'm used to it.
Yeah, you're used to the togas.
I never do parts with pants.
But he felt, does that bother you if you see something that you're unhappy with, and all of a sudden, all your friends, it's strange, they always seem to see the ones that you didn't like.
What's more, those are the ones they always run on TV.
Right.
Yeah, I'd really rather they didn't run any of them on TV, because if they were pictures I liked, I'm annoyed that they cut them and put all the commercials in. And if they're pictures I don't like, of course, I'd wish everybody forgot I ever made them.
Yeah. What was the worst bomb you ever made?
I forgot it.
That bad? What was your very first role?
I made a picture for Hal Wallace called Dark City, which was about the kind of picture they make for television now, you know. And it was okay. But then the second picture was for DeMille, was the circus picture, which
that must have been fascinating.
Won the Academy Award.
Those days.
You know, it was that was a lucky break. You got to get working for an important director in a good part fairly early on.
Right. Young people who come out to Hollywood or go to New York who want to get into the theater, it's a discouraging business. You go to auditions and they say thank you very much, and you read a few lines. And did you ever get used? Yeah, you can't be too super sensitive to be an actor.
You better believe it.
And yet you have to have an ego, which can be easily bruised. Did that ever discourage you when doors, if they were slammed in your face?
Well, you can't let it. I really think that's crucial. You've got to somehow steel yourself. You've got to develop a hide like an elephant. It is a personal rejection.
Yeah.
You know, a writer, a painter, a sculptor, when his work is rejected, at least there it is sitting on the table. You say, well,
we don't like you or what you do. Yeah.
But if an actor is rejected, it's you. And believe me, that's tough.
Did you ever lose a part because you're tall?
Yeah.
And that affects a lot of actresses, don't like to have their leading men towering over them too much. Did that ever create a problem, losing a role because?
I may have. If so, I never heard of it. I know I got a part. My first part on Broadway, which was a very small one, but very important because it was the first part, I got because Catherine Cornell was nearly 5'8". And she didn't like short men around her. She liked tall men around her. So I know specifically that's one of the reasons I got that part.
I thought it must be kind of, I suppose they get used to it, but embarrassing to somebody who was rather short. And there were actors, as you know, or are actors who are on the short side. And they have scenes where the leading lady is sometimes taller by 3 or 4 inches. And where they have to do a scene, there was a famous scene where the leading man was walking down the beach and had to walk in a trench as they panned along. Now that has to be a little uncomfortable when you're doing a love scene standing on an orange crate or walking in a trench.
Yeah, well, I've never had that problem. I've sort of, sometimes when you play love scenes with shorter leading ladies, you're kind of kissing them like this, you know. But
well, that's no big problem right there.
No, that's not just, no.
That's nice kissing like that. We started to talk about the American Film Institute. We started here about, well, Film Institute's been around for some time, but they've started honoring some great people in the business. John Ford was the
first.
And then Jimmy Cagney.
Then Jimmy Cagney. Last year, Orson Welles. This year, I'm happy to say, because he's a man that's been a friend of mine and directed me in 2 films, including the one I won the Academy Award for, William Wyler.
He did Ben-Hur.
He did Ben-Hur and about 40 other fantastic films. Audrey Hepburn's flying over all the way from Italy to be on the show. Of course, Willie directed her in Roman Holiday, which was her first picture. Barbara Streisand, whom he directed in her first picture, Funny Girl, and Gregory Peck. It's a fantastic evening. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I know you can't stay with us. And tell your daughter the shirt was fine.
I'll tell her.
Because she may not stay.
Holly, Johnny says the shirt was
fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chuck.
When Chevy Chase sat down with Johnny for our next interview in 1986, Chevy was at the height of his fame as a movie star. And on this night, he was promoting his new movie, The Three Amigos. Everything was going fine